She was standing in the hallway outside my apartment at 9:30 on a Tuesday night. I'd just gotten home from a late service call, busted furnace in an old Victorian on Maple Street, and there she was, suitcase at her feet, coat buttoned all the way up even though it wasn't that cold yet. Her hands were shaking. "Hey," she said. Just that. "Hey." I hadn't seen Rebecca in 4 years. Not since graduation, really. Maybe once at someone's wedding 2 years back, but that was across a room full of people we used to know. "I didn't know where else to go," she said. Her voice was steady but barely, like she was holding something together with wire and willpower. "I'm sorry, I know this is weird. I needed to not be there anymore." I didn't ask where there was, didn't ask why, didn't ask anything. I just stepped aside and said, "Come in." She walked past me into the apartment and I saw her shoulders drop half an inch, like she'd been braced for me to turn her away. I closed the door behind us. What she told me that night, and over the weeks that followed, would change everything I thought I knew about the life she'd built. But to understand why she came to me, why I was the person she showed up to after 4 years of silence, I need to take you back. Let me start from the beginning. I'd been living in the same apartment for 3 years. Second floor, above Morrison's Hardware on Center Street. You could hear the bell on the shop door if you were home during the day, and sometimes the smell of sawdust drifted up through the vents. I didn't mind it. It smelled like work, like something real. My life had gotten small somewhere along the way, and I'd stopped fighting it. I worked as an HVAC technician for Brennan & Sons, a local outfit that handled residential and some light commercial. Furnaces, AC units, ductwork, thermostats. I'd started right after college when the marketing job I'd lined up fell through. Thought it'd be temporary. That was 6 years ago. Turns out I was good at it. There's something satisfying about diagnosing a problem, fixing it with your hands, and watching a system come back to life. People were grateful too. Not in a big dramatic way, but in the way someone is when their heat kicks on in January after 2 cold nights. It mattered. That felt like enough most days. My routine was simple: up at 6, coffee, shower, check the dispatch board on my phone to see where I was headed. Most days I had 3, maybe 4 calls. Old furnaces that needed coaxing, new installs in cookie-cutter subdivisions. The occasional emergency, water heater leaking, AC dying in August. I kept my tools organized, my van clean, my interactions polite and professional. Lunch was usually in the van. Sandwich from home, thermos of coffee, 20 minutes parked outside wherever I was working. I'd scroll through my phone without really seeing anything. Messages from my mom asking when I'd visit. Group chat from college friends that I'd muted a year ago. Instagram posts from people I used to know, living lives that looked curated and distant. After work, I'd hit the gym on 4th Street. Nothing serious. 30 minutes on the treadmill, some weights, shower, home by 7. I'd pick up groceries on Wednesdays, cook something simple, pasta, chicken, stir-fry, eat standing at the counter or sitting on the couch with the TV on. I watched a lot of television, not because I loved it, but because it filled the silence. Streaming shows I half paid attention to, documentaries about things I'd forget by morning, sports sometimes, though I didn't have a team I cared about anymore. Weekends were quieter. I'd sleep in until 8, which felt rebellious. Coffee at the diner down the street where I'd sit at the counter and read news on my phone. Sometimes I'd see people I knew, former classmates, customers, neighbors. We'd exchange pleasantries. "How have you been?" "Good, good. You?" "Yeah, can't complain." Then we'd go back to our separate tables, our separate lives. I'd dated a woman named Kelly I met at the gym. That lasted 4 months. We had nothing in common except schedules that aligned. A teacher named Sarah I met through a mutual friend. 3 months. She wanted someone more ambitious, I think. Someone working towards something bigger. I wasn't. I'd tried the apps for a while, swiping through faces, crafting messages that sounded interesting but not desperate. A few coffee dates. One that turned into a second date. Nothing that turned into anything real. I deleted them all about 6 months before Rebecca showed up. Just stopped trying. It wasn't bitterness exactly, more like exhaustion, like I'd used up my capacity to perform interest in getting to know someone new. My parents worried about me, my mom especially. She'd call every Sunday and ask if I was doing okay, in that tone that meant she thought I wasn't. I'd tell her I was fine, because I was. I wasn't sad. I wasn't lonely in the way people usually mean. I was just existing, going through the motions of a life that worked well enough. My apartment reflected that. Clean but sparse. Furniture from IKEA that I'd assembled myself. A couch, a coffee table, a bed, a small kitchen table with 2 chairs, though I never had anyone over. No art on the walls, no plants. Nothing that required care or attention beyond basic maintenance. I'd stand at the window sometimes after work, before I turned on the TV, just looking down at Center Street, watching people walk by, couples holding hands, parents with strollers, teenagers loud and aimless. I wasn't envious. I wasn't anything. I was just watching. Somewhere in my mid-20s, I'd accepted that this was probably it. Not in a defeated way, more like a practical recognition. I'd work until I retired. I'd save money. Maybe buy a small house someday. Maybe not. I'd have acquaintances, friendly interactions, a few people I could call if I needed something. I wouldn't leave a big mark, but I wouldn't cause harm either. I'd be fine. I thought about college sometimes, about the version of myself who'd had friends, plans, energy for late-night conversations about things that felt important. Rebecca had been part of that world. We'd met freshman year, stayed close all 4 years. There was always something almost between us, a tension neither of us acknowledged. Then graduation came, and she took a job in Chicago. Big consulting firm. I stayed here. We texted for a few months, then a few times a year, then not at all. I figured she was out there building the kind of life people talk about at reunions. Career, relationship, apartment with a view. I was happy for her in the abstract way you're happy for people you used to know. I didn't think I'd see her again. And then she was standing in my hallway with a suitcase and shaking hands, and every assumption I'd made about her life, about my life, about what any of it meant, it all went out the window. But I didn't know that yet. That night, I just made tea and told her she could take the bedroom. I'd sleep on the couch. She didn't argue. She just said, "Thank you," in a voice that sounded like it might break, and disappeared behind the door. I sat on the couch in the dark for a long time after that, listening to the quiet, wondering what the hell had just happened. Before I tell you what happened next, do me a favor. Drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from. I love hearing from you all. And if you're finding this worthwhile, hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps me keep bringing you these stories. Now let me tell you how the first morning went. I woke up at 6 out of habit, neck stiff from the couch. For a second I forgot she was there. Then I saw her suitcase by the door and remembered. The apartment was quiet. I made coffee as softly as I could, which is impossible. Grinder, water running. The old machine gurgling to life. I figured she'd sleep through it. She looked exhausted. But when I turned around, she was standing in the doorway of the bedroom, still in the same clothes from last night. Hair pulled back, eyes red. "Morning," I said. "Morning." She stayed in the doorway like she wasn't sure she was allowed to come out. "I'm sorry, I should have called first. Or texted. You want coffee?" She blinked. "Yeah, please." I poured 2 cups. We stood there in the kitchen, both of us holding mugs, not saying anything. Outside, a truck rumbled past. The hardware store bell jingled as Morrison opened up downstairs. "I have to head out for work in about 20 minutes, I said. "But you can stay, obviously. There's food in the fridge. Help yourself to whatever." "I don't want to." "Rebecca," I said it gently. "It's fine. Stay as long as you need." Her jaw tightened. She looked down at her coffee. "I don't know how long that is. Doesn't matter." She looked up at me then, really looked at me like she was trying to figure out if I meant it. I held her gaze. I did mean it. "What happened?" I asked, not pushing, just offering the space if she wanted it. She shook her head. "I can't. Not yet. Is that okay?" "Yeah, that's okay." We drank our coffee in silence. I rinsed my cup, grabbed my keys and wallet. She was still standing there, holding the mug with both hands like it was keeping her upright. "I'll be back around 6, I said. "Maybe 7 if I get a late call. You have my number if you need anything." She nodded. I hesitated at the door. "Rebecca?" "Yeah?" "You don't have to explain anything, not to me, not until you're ready." Her eyes filled up. She didn't cry, but it was close. "Thank you." I left before it got heavier. Work was a blur that day. I replaced a thermostat in a duplex on the north side. Cleared a clogged drain line in a unit downtown. Did a maintenance check on a furnace in a rental property. My hands did the work, but my head was somewhere else. I kept thinking about the way she'd looked in my hallway, the way her voice had cracked when she said she didn't know where else to go. Rebecca and I had been close in college. Really close. The kind of friendship where you end up in each other's rooms at 2 a.m, talking about everything and nothing. She was smart, scary smart. Double major in economics and psychology. Always had a plan. Always had it together. There was something between us that we never named. Nights where we'd fall asleep on the same couch during study sessions. Wake up with her head on my shoulder. Conversations that felt like they were circling something we were both too careful to touch. But we never did. And then graduation happened. And she had this incredible offer in Chicago, and I had nothing. And it felt like the moment had passed. Maybe it had never really been there. I thought about her sometimes over the years. Wondered if she was happy. Wondered if she ever thought about me. But I never reached out. Figured her life had moved on. Figured mine had too, in its own quiet way. And now she was sleeping in my bed because something had broken badly enough that she'd driven, 4 hours? To show up at my door. When I got home that night, the apartment smelled different. Better. Like someone had cooked. Rebecca was at the stove, stirring something in a pot. She'd changed clothes, jeans and a sweater I didn't recognize. Her hair was down. She looked a little less like she was holding herself together by sheer force. "Hey," she said, glancing over her shoulder. "I hope this is okay. I found pasta and some vegetables. I needed to do something with my hands." "It's more than okay." We ate at the small kitchen table. It felt strange having someone across from me. I couldn't remember the last time that had happened. "How was work?" she asked. "Fine. Routine. Fix some things. How was your day?" She gave a small, tired laugh. "I slept until noon. Then I walked around the neighborhood for a while. Went to the library. I forgot how quiet it is here. Different from Chicago." "Yeah." She pushed pasta around her plate. "Really different." I waited. Didn't push. She set down her fork. "I quit my job 3 days ago, just walked out in the middle of the day. Didn't give notice. Didn't have a plan. I just couldn't be there anymore." I kept my face neutral. "Okay." My mom called me irresponsible. My brother said I was throwing away my career. My boss... She stopped. Her hands were shaking again. "He's been texting me, calling, saying I'm being emotional, that I need to come back and we'll figure it out. Do you want to go back?" She looked at me like the question had never occurred to her. "No, God, no. But everyone keeps telling me I should, that I'm making a huge mistake, that I'm burning bridges. What do you think?" Her eyes filled up again. "I think if I go back there, I'll disappear completely. Like the last piece of me that's still mine will just stop existing." I reached across the table, didn't take her hand, just rested mine near hers, close enough that she could reach it if she wanted. "Then don't go back. It's not that simple. I know, but it's also not complicated. If going back means losing yourself, then you stay gone, at least until you figure out what you actually want, not what everyone else wants." She did take my hand then, held it tight. "Why are you being so kind to me?" "Because you showed up when you needed help, and I have space. That's it. That's all it needs to be." She started crying. Not loud, just quiet tears running down her face while she held my hand across the table. I didn't try to fix it. Didn't tell her it was okay. Just sat there with her until she was ready to let go. Later, after we cleaned up, she sat on the couch while I took the cushions off to make my bed again. "You don't have to sleep out here," she said. "I can take the couch. I'm good. I mean it. This is your place. I'm the intruder." I stopped and looked at her. "You're not an intruder. You can sit here as long as you need. Sleep in the bed, eat the food, take up space. You don't have to earn it. It's just yours, okay?" She stared at me, and then something in her face just broke open. Not in a bad way, in a way that looked like relief. Like she'd been waiting for someone to say exactly that. "Okay," she whispered. I nodded. "Good. Now go to bed. You look exhausted." She smiled. "Just a little." "Yeah, I am." She went to the bedroom and closed the door softly behind her. I lay on the couch in the dark, listening to the sounds of someone else in my apartment. Water running, the bed creaking, the quiet settling of another person trying to sleep. It had been a long time since my life had felt like anything other than routine. That was starting to change. The first week passed in careful quiet. I went to work. She stayed in the apartment. I didn't ask what she did all day, but I could see the small signs when I got home. A book from the library on the coffee table. The kitchen cleaner than I'd left it. Dishes washed and put away. She was trying to make herself useful, trying to justify taking up space. I kept telling her she didn't have to. Every morning I made coffee for two. Sometimes she was already awake, sitting at the table in the early light. Sometimes she'd emerge halfway through, looking like she'd barely slept. We didn't talk much. Just good morning and have a good day and the small comfortable sounds of two people sharing space without expectation. I'd leave for work and she'd still be there in the apartment, and I'd think about her throughout the day, wondered if she was okay, if she was sleeping, if she regretted coming here. But every night when I came home, she was there, and every night she looked a little less like she might shatter. On Thursday of that first week, she cooked again, stir-fry this time, with vegetables she must have walked to the store to get. We ate together at the table, and she told me about the book she was reading, something about psychology and resilience. She talked about it like she was trying to find answers in it. I mostly listened. "Do you ever feel like you're living someone else's life?" she asked suddenly. I thought about it. Sometimes, or like I'm living a life that's on pause, waiting for something to start. Yeah, she looked down at her plate. Except I was living a life that was moving so fast I couldn't breathe, and everyone kept telling me how lucky I was. Were you lucky? She laughed, but it was hollow. I made 6 figures. I had an apartment with a doorman. I got to travel. On paper? Yeah, I was incredibly lucky. And in reality? In reality, I worked 80-hour weeks. I hadn't seen my friends in months. I couldn't remember the last time I did something just because I wanted to. My boss. She stopped. Her jaw tightened. He made me feel like I owed him everything. My time, my energy, my loyalty. And I believed him. I didn't say anything. Just waited. It wasn't always like that, she continued. At first it was just demanding, high pressure, but I was good at it and I liked being good at something. Then it started creeping. Texts at midnight, calls on weekends. He'd say things like, "I'm only hard on you because I see your potential," or "You're the only one I can trust with this." And I'd work harder, stay later, cancel plans, because I thought that's what success looked like. When did it change? I don't know if it changed or if I just finally saw it for what it was. A few months ago, I had a panic attack at my desk. Full blown, couldn't breathe, thought I was dying. I went to the ER. They told me it was anxiety, gave me a prescription and sent me home. I was back at work the next day. She looked at me, and her eyes were tired in a way that went deeper than lack of sleep. My boss sent flowers to my apartment. The card said, "We need you back. The team isn't the same without you." And I thought that was sweet. I thought he cared. But he didn't. No, he just needed me functional. 3 days later, he dumped a project on me that would take 60 hours minimum, due by end of week. When I said I didn't think I could do it, he said, "I thought you were tougher than this." So I did it. And the next one. And the next one. "What made you leave?" She was quiet for a long time. I looked in the mirror one morning and didn't recognize myself. I couldn't remember the last time I'd laughed, or felt like myself, or wanted to wake up. And I thought, if I keep doing this, I'm going to disappear completely. So I walked into his office and quit. "Good." She looked surprised. "Everyone else thinks I'm crazy. Everyone else wasn't living your life." She smiled a little. No, they weren't. The second week, something shifted. She started waking up before I left for work. She'd have coffee ready when I came out of the bathroom. We'd sit together in the kitchen, not saying much, but the silence felt different, less careful, more comfortable. On Tuesday, she asked if she could come with me on a job. "You want to watch me fix a furnace?" I asked. "I want to get out of the apartment, and I'm curious what you do all day." So I brought her. The job was a maintenance call on an old house out on County Road 14. Victorian style, 3 stories, original woodwork. The owner was an older woman named Mrs. Patterson, who offered us tea the second we walked in. Rebecca charmed her immediately. Asked about the house, the garden, the photos on the mantel. Mrs. Patterson lit up. By the time I headed down to the basement to check the boiler, they were deep in conversation about rose bushes. I worked quietly, checking the pressure, inspecting the burner, replacing a worn valve. It was meditative in a way. Hands busy, mind clear. Rebecca came down after a while, careful on the old wooden steps. "Need help?" she asked. You know anything about boilers? Not even a little. Then yeah, you can hand me tools. She crouched next to my toolbox. I'd point, she'd hand me what I needed. We worked in silence and it felt easy, natural. How'd you get into this? She asked after a while. Fell into it honestly. Job I had lined up after graduation didn't happen. Needed work. Brennan was hiring. Thought it'd be temporary. But you stayed. Yeah. Do you like it? I thought about that. I like fixing things. I like that it's tangible. You show up, something's broken, you make it work again. People are grateful. It feels honest. Do you ever wish you'd done something else? Sometimes, but mostly no. I know people think I should want more. My parents definitely do. But I don't know. This feels like enough. She was quiet. Then, I wish I'd figured that out earlier. That enough is allowed to be enough. I looked at her. You're figuring it out now. Yeah. Better late than never, I guess. We finished the job. Mrs. Patterson tried to pay extra, but I wouldn't let her. Rebecca helped her move a heavy box in the kitchen before we left. In the van on the way back, she stared out the window. Thank you for letting me come, she said. Anytime. I mean it. That was the most normal I've felt in months. By the third week, we had a rhythm. She started working on her laptop during the day. Freelance consulting, she said. Small projects, things she could control. She'd take breaks to walk around the neighborhood, sometimes coming back with groceries, sometimes just with a clearer head. We'd cook dinner together most nights. She taught me how to make a proper risotto. I showed her my mom's recipe for pot roast. We'd eat and talk about everything and nothing. Books, movies, the news. Memories from college that felt both recent and impossibly far away. One night, after a particularly long conversation about a documentary we'd both watched, she said, I forgot what this feels like. What? Just talking. Without performing. Without wondering if I'm saying the right thing, or impressing someone, or managing how I'm being perceived. Just talking because I want to. You always did that. Not for a long time. She looked at me across the table. Do you remember that night senior year? When we stayed up until 4 a.m. talking about what we thought our lives would look like? Yeah. You said you'd be running a company by 30. She laughed. God. I was so sure of myself. You said I'd probably be teaching philosophy somewhere. Reading books and corrupting young minds. You would have been good at that. Maybe, or maybe I would have hated it. Hard to know. Do you think we got it wrong? What we thought we'd be? I considered that. I think we got it young. Before we knew what we actually wanted versus what we thought we were supposed to want. She nodded slowly. Yeah, that sounds right. We were quiet for a moment. Then she said, I'm glad I came here. I know it's weird. And I know I just showed up out of nowhere, but I'm glad. I'm glad too. And I meant it. The apartment felt different with her in it. Less empty, less like I was just marking time until nothing. The 4th week, things deepened. She told me more about her boss, how the lines had blurred between professional and personal, how he'd text her late at night, not about work but about his life, his marriage, his feelings, how he made her feel special, chosen, how she'd convinced herself it was mentorship until it wasn't. He never crossed a line physically, she said one night. We were on the couch, each with a beer, the TV on low. But emotionally, God, he was in my head all the time. I'd check my phone constantly, waiting for his approval. I'd feel sick when he was disappointed in me. I organized my entire life around his needs. That's not mentorship. No. It was manipulation, but I didn't see it until I was out. And even now, he's still texting, saying he's worried, that the team misses me, that I'm making a mistake. Have you responded? I blocked him yesterday. She looked at me. It felt terrifying, like I was doing something wrong. You weren't. I know. Logically, I know, but it still feels like I'm betraying him somehow. Isn't that fucked up? It's normal. He spent a lot of time making you feel like you owed him everything. That doesn't just go away. She leaned her head back against the couch. How'd you get so wise? I'm not. I just have distance from it. Still. She turned to look at me. You've been kinder to me in 3 weeks than most people in my life have been in years. And you're not asking for anything in return. I don't need anything in return. Everyone needs something. Okay, then I need you to stop thinking you have to earn the right to be here. You just get to be here, that's it. Her eyes got bright. She looked away quickly, blinking. That's harder than it sounds. I know. We sat in silence for a while. Then she said quietly, Thank you. For what? For not trying to fix me, for just letting me be broken for a while. You're not broken. I feel pretty broken. You're healing. That's different. She smiled, just a little. Okay, I'm healing then. Yeah, you are. By the end of the 4th week, I realized I didn't want her to leave. Not in a romantic way, or not only in a romantic way. It was more fundamental than that. I liked having her around. I liked the way the apartment felt with her in it. I liked cooking together, talking together, existing in the same space without it feeling heavy or obligatory. I liked who I was when she was there. One Saturday morning, we were sitting at the kitchen table with coffee and the crossword puzzle from the newspaper Mrs. Patterson had given me. We were terrible at it, but we were laughing, making up ridiculous answers when we couldn't figure out the real ones. 12 across, Rebecca said. 5 letters. State of tranquility. Peace, I said. She wrote it in. That fits. She looked up at me. Do you feel peaceful? Right now? In general. I thought about it. More than I used to. You? Getting there, she said. Slowly, but yeah, getting there. She smiled at me, and something in my chest loosened. We went back to the crossword. Outside, the October wind rattled the windows. Inside, it was warm and quiet and safe. I didn't know how long this would last. Didn't know what would happen when her family started pressing harder, when the money situation became real, when the weight of the real world came back. But right then, in that moment, it was enough. She was here. I was here. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like more than just existing. It felt like living. The calls started during the 5th week, her mom first. I was at work when it happened, but Rebecca told me about it that night. She'd been working on her laptop, finally starting to feel like she had some control over her days, when her phone rang. I almost didn't answer, she said. We were making pasta, her chopping vegetables, me boiling water. But I knew if I didn't, she'd just keep calling. What did she say? Rebecca's knife stilled on the cutting board. She asked when I was coming home. Not if, when, like it was a given that this was just a phase, a tantrum. What did you tell her? That I wasn't sure. That I needed time to figure things out. She said I'd had a month, that was plenty of time. Then she started in on how I'd worked so hard to build my career, and I was throwing it away. How disappointed my father would be if he were still alive. I looked over at her. Her jaw was tight, eyes focused on the vegetables like she could cut through the emotion if she just concentrated hard enough. That's not fair, I said. No, it's not. But it's effective. She swept the vegetables into the pan with more force than necessary. She knows exactly what buttons to push. Always has. The next day, her brother called. I was home when it happened. I'd finished work early, rare, but the afternoon calls had canceled. Becca was pacing in the kitchen, phone pressed to her ear, and I could hear the voice on the other end even from the living room. Male, loud, aggressive. I didn't abandon anything, David, she said, her voice strained. I quit a job that was destroying me. The voice got louder. I caught words. Selfish, irresponsible, embarrassing. I'm not discussing this with you right now. Her hand was shaking. I need to go. She hung up before he finished talking, stood there staring at the phone like it might bite her. You okay? I asked. She shook her head. He said I'm being selfish. That mom's worried sick. That I'm making everything harder for everyone by running away and playing house with some guy from college. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He knows exactly what he's talking about. That's the problem. She finally looked at me. He's not wrong. I did run away. I am hiding here. You're not hiding, you're recovering. What's the difference? Hiding is about fear. Recovering is about survival. You're doing what you need to do to put yourself back together. That's not selfish. That's necessary. She sank into a chair at the table, phone still in her hand. Then why does it feel so wrong? Because they've spent your whole life teaching you that taking care of yourself is wrong, that your value is in what you produce and who you please. They're not going to celebrate you unlearning that. She looked at me for a long moment. How do you always know what to say? I don't. I'm just saying what I see. The text from her former boss started the following week. She showed me the first one over breakfast. Just, hope you're doing okay. The team misses you. Innocent enough on the surface, but her hands were shaking holding the phone. He's been texting every few days, she said. Always something like this, casual, concerned. You don't have to respond. I know, but it's hard. Part of me still wants to explain, to make him understand. He doesn't want to understand. He wants you back under his control. She nodded slowly. I know that too. Logically, but emotionally. Emotionally, he spent 2 years training you to care about what he thinks. That doesn't disappear overnight. The texts escalated. We really need to talk about the Anderson project. You're the only one who understands it. Then, I'm worried about you. This isn't like you. Then, you're better than this. Don't throw away everything we built. She showed me each one, and I watched her getting smaller with every message. Block him, I said finally. I can't. Why not? Because… She stopped, struggled. Because what if he's right? What if I am being emotional and irrational? What if I'm making a huge mistake? Do you want to go back? No? Then he's not right. He's manipulating you. Still. She stared at the phone. It feels mean. Blocking him. It's not mean, it's a boundary, you're allowed to have those. She was quiet for a long time. Then, hands shaking, she blocked the number. When it was done, she set the phone down like it weighed 100 pounds. There, she whispered. Done. How do you feel? Terrified, like I just did something unforgivable. You didn't. You protected yourself. She nodded, but I could see she didn't believe it yet. A few days later, everything came to a head. Her mom called again. This time I was home. Rebecca answered in the bedroom, but I could hear it through the door. The conversation started tense and got worse. I'm not coming back right now, Mom. Muffled response. I don't care what David thinks. More muffled response, longer this time. That's not fair, you can't. Then silence. Long enough that I almost knocked. When Rebecca came out, her face was blotchy and her eyes were red. She said the family is embarrassed, Rebecca said, voice hollow. That people keep asking about me, where I am, why I left my job, and she doesn't know what to tell them. What did you say? I said that wasn't my problem. And she said, her voice broke. She said I used to be someone she was proud of, and now she doesn't even recognize me. I stood up, wanted to pull her into a hug, but waited to see if she wanted that. She did. Collapsed into me, not crying, just shaking. She's wrong, I said into her hair. The person you're becoming is someone to be proud of. She just can't see it yet. What if she's right? What if I'm just broken now? You're not broken. You're finally putting yourself back together. That looks messy from the outside, but it's not breaking. It's healing. She held onto me tighter. We stood like that for a long time. That night she couldn't sleep. I woke up around 3 to find her sitting on the couch in the dark, staring at nothing. Hey, I said quietly. She looked over. Did I wake you? No, can't sleep, can't stop thinking. I sat down next to her. About everything. Whether I'm making a mistake, whether I'm being weak, whether I should just go back and push through it like everyone thinks I should. Do you think you're being weak? I don't know. Everyone else seems to think so. Everyone else isn't living in your body. They didn't feel what you felt. They don't know what it cost you to stay as long as you did. She pulled her knees up to her chest. I had a panic attack today, while you were at work. Full blown, just like the one that sent me to the ER. I couldn't breathe. I thought I was going to pass out. Why didn't you call me? Because I felt stupid. Because I'm supposed to be getting better, not worse. Healing isn't linear, you know that. Knowing it and living it are different. What triggered it? She was quiet. Then, my mom sent me a job posting, some director position at a firm in Boston, with a note that said, "This could be your fresh start. Let me know if you want me to send your resume." Jesus. She means well. I know she does. She's just trying to help. Is she? Or is she trying to get you back to a version of you that she understands? Rebecca looked at me, and her eyes filled with tears. I don't want to be that version anymore, but I don't know how to tell her that without losing her completely. You might lose her for a while, and that's going to hurt, but you can't set yourself on fire to keep her warm. I know. She wiped her eyes. I know, but it doesn't make it easier. I reached over, took her hand. You don't have to do this alone. Whatever comes next, you don't have to figure it out all by yourself. She squeezed my hand. You keep saying that, because it's true. We sat in the dark together, holding hands, not solving anything but not being alone with it either. After a while, she said, I'm scared. Of what? That they're right, that I'm running away. That I'll wake up in 6 months and realize I threw my whole life away for nothing. You didn't throw your life away. You left a situation that was killing you. That's different. What if I can't build something new? What if this is it? What if I'm just going to be the person who couldn't handle it? Then you'll be the person who knew when to walk away from something that wasn't right. That takes more strength than enduring does. She rested her head on my shoulder. I hope you're right. I am. I said it with more certainty than I felt because she needed to hear it. We stayed like that until the sun started to come up. The pressure kept building over the next few days. More calls, more texts from family. Her brother sent an email listing all the reasons she was making a mistake. Her mom sent flowers with a card that said, "We love you, please come home." Rebecca stopped eating much, stopped sleeping well. I'd wake up and find her on the couch more nights than not, staring at her laptop, looking at job postings she had no interest in, like she was trying to force herself back into the shape everyone expected. On Thursday night, I came home to find her packing, suitcase open on the bed, clothes folded inside. My stomach dropped. "What are you doing?" She didn't look at me. "I should go. I've overstayed. Imposed too much." That's not true. My mom's right. I can't just hide here forever. I need to figure out my life. Get a real job. Stop being a burden. You're not a burden. I'm living in your apartment, eating your food, taking up your space. Of course I'm a burden. I stepped into the room. "Rebecca, look at me." She did, and her eyes were empty, defeated. "Do you want to go back?" I asked. "It doesn't matter what I want. It's the only thing that matters." "No, it's not. I have responsibilities, family expectations, a career I worked a decade to build. I can't just throw all of that away because I'm tired." "You're not tired. You're burnt out. You're traumatized. You're recovering from years of being told your worth is tied to your productivity. And now your family is using that against you to pull you back into it." "They're not." "Yes, they are. Maybe not maliciously, but they are. Because your healing threatens their worldview. It forces them to look at the systems they've bought into, and that's uncomfortable. So instead of supporting you, they're pressuring you to go back to being who you were, even if that person was miserable." She stared at me. "What am I supposed to do? Just cut them off? Ignore them? I don't know. But I know going back to something that broke you isn't the answer." "I don't have another answer." "Then stay here until you find one or don't find one. Just stay until you're ready, until you actually want to leave. Not because someone else is telling you to." She shook her head. "I can't keep doing this to you. You're not doing anything to me. You're just here, and I want you here." She looked at me, really looked at me, and something cracked in her expression. "Why?" "Because you're my friend. Because you needed help. Because I have the space and the capacity to offer it. And because—" I stopped. Wasn't sure if I should say it. "Because what?" "Because my life is better with you in it." Her face crumpled. She sat down hard on the edge of the bed, surrounded by half-packed clothes, and started to cry. Really cry. The kind of crying that sounds like it's been held back for too long. I sat next to her, put my arm around her, let her cry into my shoulder until she ran out of tears. When she finally stopped, she said, voice raw, "I don't know what to do. You don't have to know. Not tonight. Just unpack, stay, and we'll figure out tomorrow when it gets here." She pulled back, looked at me. "You really mean that?" "I really mean that." She nodded slowly, then started taking clothes out of the suitcase. We didn't talk about it anymore that night. Just put her clothes back in the drawers, made tea, sat on the couch in the quiet. But the pressure was still there, hovering, waiting. And I knew it was only a matter of time before it came to a breaking point. The breaking point came on a Tuesday. Rebecca's phone rang at 8 in the morning. I was getting ready for work, and she was sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop. She looked at the screen and her whole body tensed. "It's my old boss," she said. "I thought you blocked him." "I did. This is a different number." She stared at the phone like it was a snake. "He must be calling from his personal line. You don't have to answer." But she did. Put it on speaker and set it on the table. "Rebecca." His voice was smooth, concerned. "I've been so worried about you. Are you okay?" "I'm fine, Mark. You haven't been responding to any of my messages. I understand you needed some space, but we really need to talk about your future with the firm. HR is asking questions. I've been covering for you, but I can only do that for so long. I quit a month ago. There's nothing to cover. You were emotional, under stress. We all understood that. But Rebecca, you don't just walk away from a career like this. You've worked too hard. We've invested too much in you." I watched her grip the edge of the table. You invested in my productivity, she said quietly. Not in me. That's not true. I've mentored you, guided you, given you opportunities no one else would have. You exploited me. Silence on the other end. Then his voice changed. Harder. That's an incredibly serious accusation. It's the truth. Listen to me very carefully. You're burning bridges right now that you won't be able to rebuild. You're emotional. You're not thinking clearly, and you're making decisions that will haunt you. Come back. Let's sit down. We'll figure this out together. No. Rebecca. No. I'm not coming back. I'm not discussing this. I need you to stop calling me. You're making a mistake. Maybe. But it's my mistake to make. She hung up. Her hands were shaking so badly she had to clasp them together. She stared at the phone like she couldn't believe what she'd just done. I did it, she whispered. I actually did it. Yeah, you did. Why do I feel like I just did something terrible? Because he spent 2 years conditioning you to feel that way anytime you said no to him. She looked up at me, eyes bright with unshed tears. He's going to tell people. He's going to make sure I can't work in the industry again. Maybe. Or maybe he's just going to move on to his next target. Either way, you're out. That's what matters. She nodded, but she looked shaky, fragile. I almost called in sick to work. Almost stayed. But she told me to go, that she'd be okay, that she needed to sit with it. I shouldn't have listened. I got the call at 2 in the afternoon. Mrs. Patterson's grandson. The furnace was acting up again. Could I come by? I was on my way out the door when my phone buzzed. Text from Rebecca. Can you come home? I called her. What's wrong? Can you come home? Please? Her voice sounded wrong. Too high, too tight. I'm on my way. I called Mrs. Patterson's grandson, rescheduled, and drove faster than I should have. When I got to the apartment, Rebecca was on the floor in the kitchen, back against the cabinets, knees pulled up to her chest, breathing fast and shallow. Hey, look at me. I crouched in front of her. She shook her head. Can't breathe, I can't. Yes, you can, with me, in through your nose. I breathed in slowly, out through your mouth. She tried, failed, gasped. It's okay, try again. Just focus on me. It took 10 minutes. 10 long minutes of breathing with her, sitting on the floor, not touching her but staying close until her breathing slowed, until the shaking stopped, until she could look at me without panic in her eyes. What happened? I asked gently. Everything. All at once. Her voice was hoarse. My mom called, said she's coming here this weekend to talk sense into me. My brother sent an email with a list of therapists like I'm having a breakdown. Mark sent a LinkedIn message saying he hopes I find clarity soon. And I couldn't breathe. I couldn't make it stop. Okay, you're safe now. Am I? She looked at me. Because it doesn't feel safe. It feels like everyone is closing in. Like they're all trying to tell me who I should be, and I don't have the energy to fight them all. Then don't fight. Just be. I can't just be. They won't let me. Then you set boundaries. You tell your mom not to come. You stop reading your brother's emails. You block Mark on LinkedIn. You protect your space. And then what? I lose my family? I become the person everyone's disappointed in? You become the person who chose herself. That's not something to be ashamed of. She started crying. Not panic this time, just exhaustion, deep, bone-tired exhaustion. I don't know if I can do this, she said. You don't have to do it alone. You keep saying that, but you're going to get tired of this eventually. Of me. Of all my mess. I'm not. You don't know that. Yes, I do. She looked at me and something in her expression broke. Why are you doing this? Really? Why are you letting me fall apart in your apartment? Why are you coming home in the middle of the day because I can't breathe? What are you getting out of this? I sat down next to her on the kitchen floor, our backs against the cabinets, shoulders touching. Do you remember the night you showed up? I asked. Of course. I'd been living the same day on repeat for 3 years. Work, home, sleep, repeat. I wasn't unhappy, but I wasn't anything. I was just existing. And then you knocked on my door and suddenly my life had someone else in it. Someone who needed something I could give. Not money, not advice, just space, presence. And that mattered. You being here matters. That's it? I make your life less empty? You make my life less lonely. That's not the same thing. She was quiet for a moment. Then, what if I can't get better? What if this is just who I am now? broken and scared and unable to handle normal adult responsibilities. Then you'll be broken and scared here, and I'll still make coffee in the morning and we'll still figure out dinner, and you'll still be allowed to take up space without earning it. That's not sustainable. Why not? Because people don't just stay, not without getting something out of it. I am getting something out of it. I'm getting you, whole or broken or anywhere in between. That's enough for me. She turned to look at me fully. You mean that? I mean that. Her eyes filled up again. I don't know how to accept that. That kind of conditional presence. No one's ever offered me that before. Then learn. I'm not going anywhere. You have time. What if my mom shows up this weekend? Then we'll deal with it together. You can talk to her or not talk to her. You can let her in or ask her to leave. Whatever you need. But you don't have to face her alone. What if she tells me I'm destroying the family? Then she's wrong, and I'll tell you that as many times as you need to hear it. She leaned her head against my shoulder. We sat there on the kitchen floor, side by side, for a long time. Finally, she said, I need to tell them I'm not coming back. Not to Chicago, not to that life, not anytime soon. Okay, that's going to hurt them. Probably. But staying in a life that's killing you will hurt you. And you get to choose yourself in that equation. Do I? Yes, you do. She took a shaky breath. Then I'm staying here, if that's still okay. It's more than okay. I mean really staying. Not just until I figure things out. Staying because I want to. Because this is the first place I've felt like I can breathe in years. Then stay. What about your life? Your space? My life is better with you in it. I told you that. I meant it. She pulled back to look at me. I don't have a job. I have maybe 3 months of savings left. I can't pay rent. I can't contribute equally. You're here. That's the only requirement. We'll figure out the rest. That's not fair to you. Let me worry about what's fair to me. She searched my face. You really mean this. All of it. Every word. She started crying again. But this time it looked different. Not like breaking, like releasing. Okay, she whispered. Okay, I'm staying. Good. I'm terrified. I know, but you're not alone in it. Promise? Promise. She leaned against me again, and we stayed on the kitchen floor until the sun started to set, until her breathing evened out, until the panic had drained away and left only exhaustion. Eventually, I helped her up, made her tea, ordered takeout because neither of us had the energy to cook. While we waited for the food, she texted her mom, I'm not ready to see you this weekend. I need more time. I'll reach out when I'm ready. She showed me the message before sending it. You think that's okay? She asked. I think it's honest. She hit send. Then she blocked her brother's email address, blocked Mark on LinkedIn, put her phone on Do Not Disturb. There, she said. Done. No more intrusions. How does it feel? Like I just jumped off a cliff. She looked at me. But you're here, so maybe I'll land okay. You will. We ate dinner in front of the TV, some cooking show neither of us really watched. Just background noise while we existed in the same space, in the quiet after the storm. Before bed, she stopped at the doorway to the bedroom. Thank you, she said, for today, for all of it. You don't have to thank me. I do, though, because what you did today, staying when it got hard, not leaving when I fell apart, no one's ever done that for me before. So thank you. Anytime. I mean that, anytime. She smiled, small but real. I believe you. She closed the door. I made my bed on the couch and lay there in the dark, thinking about how much had changed in 6 weeks, how the apartment felt different, how I felt different. I thought about what I'd said to her, that I wasn't going anywhere, that she could stay as long as she needed. I meant it. And somewhere in the process of offering her a place to land, I'd found one too. 6 months later, the apartment looked different. Not dramatically. I hadn't moved or renovated or changed anything structural, but there were plants now. A snake plant by the window that Rebecca swore was impossible to kill. A potted herb garden on the kitchen counter that we actually used when we cooked. Basil, rosemary, thyme. There were books on the coffee table, hers and mine mixed together. A blanket draped over the back of the couch that she'd bought at a craft fair downtown. Photos on the refrigerator, held up by magnets. Us at the farmer's market, Mrs. Patterson's garden in bloom. A sunset from the hiking trail we'd found outside town. Small things, but they added up to something that felt like home. Rebecca was still here, Not because she had nowhere else to go. Not because she was hiding or recovering or unable to function. She was here because she'd chosen to be. She'd started her own consulting business 3 months ago. Small projects at first, helping local businesses with strategy and operations. She worked from the kitchen table most days, or sometimes from the library when she needed a change of scenery. She set her own hours, said no to clients who felt wrong, built something that was entirely hers. It wasn't the 6-figure salary she'd had in Chicago, but she could pay bills, contribute to groceries, and more importantly, she could breathe. She'd reconnected with her mom, slowly, carefully. They talked on the phone every couple weeks. It wasn't easy. Her mom still didn't fully understand why Rebecca had left. Still asked when she was going to get a real job. Still worried that she was wasting her potential in a small town with a man she'd barely kept in touch with for years. But Rebecca had learned to hold boundaries, to say, "I understand you're concerned, but I'm happy here," and let that be enough. To hang up when conversations turned manipulative, to protect the peace she'd built. Her brother still didn't talk to her much. That hurt. But she was learning to accept that some relationships don't survive growth, that sometimes choosing yourself means losing people you love, that it's still worth it. Mark had stopped contacting her after she sent a formal cease and desist letter through a lawyer. She'd used some of her savings for that, said it was the best money she'd ever spent. We'd settled into rhythms. Coffee together every morning before I left for work. She'd started coming with me on jobs sometimes, not because she needed to get out of the apartment anymore, but because she liked it, liked watching me work, liked meeting the people I met, liked the quiet drive back, talking about nothing important. We cooked dinner together most nights, tried new recipes, failed at some, perfected others. We'd started a tradition of Sunday morning pancakes. She made them from scratch now with the buttermilk and everything. They were better than anything I'd ever made. We watched movies, took walks, went to the farmer's market on Saturdays, did the crossword puzzle over coffee, existed in each other's space with an ease that felt like it had always been there, even though 6 months ago we'd barely spoken in years. We never really defined what we were. Didn't have a conversation about labels or relationships or what we meant to each other. It just evolved. Naturally, gradually. A hand on the small of her back when I passed her in the kitchen, her head on my shoulder during movies. Falling asleep on the couch together and waking up tangled, neither of us moving to separate. Then one night about 4 months in, we'd been sitting on the couch and she'd turned to me and said, "Can I kiss you?" And I'd said, "Yeah, you can." It wasn't fireworks. Wasn't some big dramatic moment. It was gentle, easy, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Afterward, she'd smiled and said, "That took me long enough. We had time. We did, didn't we?" She'd moved into the bedroom with me a few weeks after that. Not because we had to. Not because the couch was uncomfortable. Just because we both wanted to wake up next to each other. It still felt surreal sometimes. That she was here. That this was my life now. That the woman who'd shown up terrified and broken 6 months ago was now making coffee in my kitchen, humming along to music, planning her week, laughing at something on her phone. On a Saturday morning in early spring, I woke up before her. The sun was just starting to come through the blinds, painting stripes of light across the bed. Rebecca was still asleep beside me, face soft and peaceful. Her hair was spread across the pillow, one hand tucked under her cheek. I watched her for a moment, thought about all the versions of her I'd known. The college student who'd stayed up until 4 in the morning debating philosophy. The corporate consultant who'd pushed herself until she shattered. The woman who'd shown up at my door with a suitcase and shaking hands. And this version. The one who'd built something new from the pieces, who'd chosen herself, who'd learned that rest wasn't weakness, that enough could actually be enough. I got up quietly, trying not to wake her, made coffee, started breakfast, eggs, toast, orange juice. She emerged a little while later, still in sleep clothes, one of my old t-shirts and pajama pants, hair messy, eyes still half closed. "Morning," she mumbled. "Morning." She came up behind me at the stove, wrapped her arms around my waist, rested her cheek against my back. We stood like that for a minute, just breathing, being. "What are you making?" she asked. "Eggs. Nothing fancy. Smells good." We ate breakfast at the table by the window, the one that looked out over Center Street. We could see Morrison opening the hardware store below. Mrs. Chen setting up flower displays outside her shop across the street. Saturday morning unfolding slowly and quietly. "I've been thinking," Rebecca said, cutting into her eggs. "About? Maybe getting a dog." I looked up. Yeah, I don't know. I've always wanted one. And I'm home enough now that I could actually take care of it. We could, if you wanted. I'd like that." She smiled. Really. We could go to the shelter next weekend, see who's there." "Okay." She took a bite of toast. "Okay, yeah, let's do that." We finished breakfast. Did the dishes together. She washed, I dried. The radio played softly from the counter. Some folk song I didn't know. She hummed along. After we sat on the couch with more coffee. She had her laptop, working on a proposal for a new client. I had a book I'd been trying to finish for 2 months. We existed in comfortable silence, the kind where you don't need to fill space with talking, where just being together is enough. Around noon, she closed her laptop and stretched. "Want to go for a walk?" she asked. "Sure." We walked through the neighborhood, past the houses I'd fixed furnaces in, past the library where she'd spent so many afternoons that first week, past the diner where I used to eat breakfast alone. It was warmer now. Spring pushing through, trees budding, flowers starting to bloom in yards. We didn't talk much, just walked hand in hand, taking in the day. At the park, we sat on a bench overlooking the pond, watched ducks glide across the water, kids playing on the playground, people walking dogs. "I never thought my life would look like this," Rebecca said quietly. "Like what?" "Small, simple, peaceful." She looked at me. "I thought I'd live in a big city forever. Climb ladders, collect impressive job titles, be the person everyone pointed to as successful. Do you miss it?" She considered that. "Sometimes I miss the idea of it, the person I thought I was supposed to be. But the actual life? No, not even a little." "What do you miss?" "I miss my dad, wish he could see this version of me. I think he'd get it, you know. He always told me life was too short to be miserable. I just didn't understand what he meant until it was almost too late." I squeezed her hand. "I don't miss the work," she continued, "or the pressure, or constantly feeling like I was failing even when I was succeeding. I don't miss being afraid to check my phone, or waking up with dread, or feeling like I was disappearing. You're not disappearing now." "No, I'm not." She smiled. "I'm the most myself I've been in years, maybe ever. And that's weird to say about the period of my life where I technically have the least to show for it. You have plenty to show for it. Like what? Like a business you built, like boundaries you set, like a life you actually want to live. That's not nothing." "No, I guess it's not." She leaned against my shoulder. "Thank you." "For what?" "For giving me a place to figure this out, for not making me feel like I had to rush, for just being here. You don't have to thank me for that. I know, but I want to." She tilted her head to look up at me. "When I showed up at your door, I didn't know what I was asking for. I just knew I couldn't keep doing what I was doing, and you gave me exactly what I needed without me even having to ask. Space, time, quiet, safety. I don't know where I'd be if you hadn't let me in. You would have figured it out. Maybe, but I'm glad I didn't have to do it alone." "Me too." We sat there for a while longer, watching the water, watching people, watching spring arrive. Eventually we walked home, made dinner together. Pasta with the herbs from the kitchen counter, salad, bread from the bakery downtown. After dinner we sat on the couch. She curled up against me, my arm around her shoulders. We put on a movie we'd seen before, something we didn't have to pay attention to. Halfway through she said, "I love you." It was the first time either of us had said it out loud. We'd both known it, I think, had been living it for months, but hearing the words felt significant anyway. "I love you too," I said. She smiled against my chest. Good. We didn't say anything else, didn't need to. Just sat there together while the movie played on, while the evening darkened outside, while life continued to unfold in all its small, quiet, beautiful ways. Later, after she'd fallen asleep and I was lying there in the dark, I thought about something she'd said months ago, that she didn't need saving. She needed a place to land. She'd been right. But what I hadn't told her, what I was only just beginning to understand, was that in giving her a place to land, I'd found one too. For years, I'd been going through the motions, working, existing, convincing myself that fine was enough. that a small, quiet life was all I needed or deserved. And then she'd shown up, and slowly, carefully, everything had changed. Not in big dramatic ways, in tiny ones. In morning coffee and shared dinners and crossword puzzles and hand-holding and conversations that mattered, and silences that didn't need to be filled. In building a life that wasn't just mine anymore. That was ours. I'd thought I was helping her, giving her space to heal. But really, we'd been healing each other, building something new together, something that looked nothing like what either of us had planned, but everything like what we'd needed. She shifted in her sleep, moved closer. I pulled her in, and she settled against me with a soft sigh. Outside, the street was quiet, the hardware store dark, the world still and peaceful. Inside, we were home, and that was more than enough. That was everything.